Hello and welcome to the Secrets of Healthful Motherhood Summit. My name is Vera, Stepina, and I'm introducing you to another expert today. Her name is Tatum Rebelle, and she is the founder of Total Mommy Fitness. Total Mommy Fitness Method is a holistic approach to health and fitness, which has reached tens of thousands of busy moms all over the world with advice on how to stay fit physically and mentally. And Tatum founded in about 10 years ago, as I remember. She's been featured in Fit Pregnancy, Muscle and Performance, and Arts and Fit magazine, and a lot of other different media outlets. I'm very excited to have her here with us today. Hi, Tatum. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks.
Good. Thank you so much for making time on a Saturday to record an interview.
Sure.
My first question is I want to ask you about your story, your background, what inspired you to start doing what you're doing now.
Yeah, so long story short, I became a trainer, I guess, when I was 18, I think now. It was just kind of, something that I was interested in. I was an athlete growing up. And anyway, a couple of years into my training, I trained my first pregnant client, and I was really nervous because I'd heard so many warnings and, you can't get their heart rate over 150 or 140. And, there were so many kind of fears around it that I did a lot of research. And that was before Google and stuff. So I called around to the local nurses and OBGYNs, and no one could point me in the right direction. And so I realized, prenatal fitness just is something that there aren't a lot of resources out there for women who are interested. And so the more research I did, the more I found most of what people hear is actually not true at all. And even 10 years later, there's still a lot of those same myths and misconceptions. And so Total Mommy Fitness is really about just trying to kind of cut through the noise and the fear and support women during pregnancy and postpartum, and just teaching them how to stay healthy. And on a personal note, I actually lost my mom when I was 19, and so I feel very passionate about helping women stay fit. And she actually lost her mom when her mom was only 61. My mom was 52, and preventable diseases are the number one killer of women. And so I just feel extremely passionate about helping families stay healthy so they can stay together longer.
I actually lost my mom when I was 19 too. She passed away from breast cancer, and I felt like this is what actually motivated me to learn more and help more people because of that as well. Because I feel like if she knew back then what I know now about nutrition and about healthier lifestyle, I think she could have done things differently without following doctor's approach and doing something else on top of it or besides it. And maybe she was here with me now. She would be. I don't know. But I feel like I can. I try to help other people change their lives so they are present for their kids. When they get older, they go to college. I want to see my boys and, this girl that I'm pregnant with, I want to see them get married. I want to see their kids. So
yeah, exactly. Well, thanks for sharing that. That's interesting that we have such a similar story. My mom passed away of cancer, and her mom passed away of stroke, and both of them, could still be here now if they had the knowledge and support that we do. And so I just think it's so important for us to help other women because of, our experience. We can maybe prevent someone else from having the same outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. So my question about, you mentioned, women staying healthy throughout pregnancy, and there's a lot of information about your heart rate going out or higher than, it should go.
Mm-hmm.
How is it different? So I've seen two completely opposite approaches. Some people say, I'm pregnant now, I'm not going to do anything, and, I'm just going to lay down on the couch and just, I can run. People are scared of running or stuff, other stuff. And then I've seen people who are pregnant and they go extreme and they still continue to CrossFit and lift crazy amounts of weight, and that just plain scares me. So what is a good approach to training? How is it different when you're pregnant?
Yeah, It's interesting. People do tend to fall into kind of two camps, you know, like generally speaking. Some people get really afraid and so they don't do anything, and others are, you know, maybe overkill because they're afraid of gaining weight, and gaining weight is a healthy part of pregnancy, you know. So it's about finding that balance of, in staying active enough to be healthy, but, you know, not too active where you're not gaining the healthy amount of weight and actually not getting enough nutrients. If you're working out, you know, so hard that you're burning, you know, so many calories and that kind of thing, it can actually harm you. Your baby will probably be fine. You know, everyone's worried about the baby, but it's actually going to do more damage to the woman by maybe not getting enough, you know, calcium for her bones or whatever she needs. You know, the baby will get it, but her body won't for the recovery of her workout. So anyway, that said, really it's just about before you were pregnant, you could probably push through things, and in prenatal exercise, you shouldn't really push beyond what's comfortable. So the most important rule of prenatal exercise is just really being tuned into your body. And some days you're going to feel great, you're going to want to take on the world, and that's the day that maybe you can push a little harder or go a little longer. But there's other days you're going to feel nauseous, fatigue, you know, dizziness, and that's not something you want to push through because you could, you know, just end up hurting yourself. And like I said, the baby, most likely, you know, nothing's 100% guaranteed, but will be completely fine. But it's the woman who puts herself at risk when she overdoes it during pregnancy.
So what about the heart rate that is not supposed to go above a certain number? Like
so that's actually that's complete nonsense, and it's funny because that was a recommendation that was given before any research had been done on prenatal exercise. So, like, you know, back in the 80s, maybe they had done some animal, you know, trials, and it was kind of an educated guess. So as soon as they started doing, you know, real actual research studies and followed pregnant women during their pregnancies and then followed their babies afterwards, and every single study said that it was all based on the woman's own perceived exertion. So meaning on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, if one woman might feel an 8 on the scale of 1 to 10 of like difficulty, and another woman might feel a 4 because she's in better shape, you know. So it all is based on how a woman's feeling. And if she's feeling okay and she can carry on a conversation and she doesn't feel like she's about to pass out, it's perfectly safe whether her heart rate's at 120 or 160. But it all is based on a woman kind of tuning into her body and listening for its feedback. Okay, so a good rule would be just follow the way you feel. Don't follow the heart monitor. Absolutely. Okay. Heart monitor is a waste of money during pregnancy, unless, you know, I mean, they come in handy if you're maybe setting goals or training for an athletic event. But during pregnancy, it's all about how you feel. And so on a scale of 1 to 10, I probably wouldn't push it above, you know, an 8. But staying comfortably between a 6 and an 8 is fine. Okay, great. That's wonderful. Because people talk about it so much. And, you know, I feel like a part of it is because we're simply scared that something is going to happen to, you know, to us or to the baby. And another part is we're trying to kind of not make excuse, but, you know, kind of say, oh, you know, it's okay, I'm pregnant. So I don't. It's a free pass. Yeah, like I don't have to. I can eat for 2 and I don't have to do anything. When the reality is, so the first time I was pregnant, I didn't do anything. I signed up for the gym and thinking about I was going to do some water aerobic classes. I ended up not going because everybody there was at least 45 years older than me in the same class. Yeah. So I didn't go, and I didn't do anything afterwards. But then with the second pregnancy, I was really active, and I worked out, and I trained throughout the whole pregnancy. And I'm 27 weeks
as of today, as of tomorrow. And I'm still doing a lot of things within my comfort zone. Like, I don't go over when I don't feel well, but I learned how to read, how to read my body, how to know my body, what's good and what's not. And I learned how to separate laziness from when I'm really feeling not up to what
Did you notice a difference between that first pregnancy when you didn't work out much and the second pregnancy when you were active?
Absolutely. There are two different pregnancies, and they can be any more different. I mean, with the second, I think a part of it is because first pregnancy is always harder. The first delivery is always harder because your body is new. I mean, your body doesn't know what it's doing yet. But with the second, like, I had my second baby right on a due date. I pushed him out in 5 minutes. I didn't even have time to do any drugs because I simply didn't have time. It happened so fast.
Yeah.
It was so much
I hear that so often.
Faster.
Yeah, they've shown, I've read just about every research study, that's been done on prenatal exercise, and luckily there's been a lot of them in the last 15 years. But they all say that when you're active throughout your pregnancy, it helps with labor, it helps with a faster recovery, it helps with the health of your baby, it helps with your health. The benefits are endless, and as far as the risk, there's been little to no risk shown for the baby especially, but even the mom. And there's risk of exercising and injuring yourself even when you're not pregnant. So I don't think that's anything to be afraid of. As long as you're listening to your body, you could get hurt doing CrossFit, by doing something silly if you're not listening to your body, even if you're not pregnant. So that's not a real concern.
Yeah. And also I've noticed, even from my experience, but also from my clients, there are less aches, there are less pains, the lower back doesn't hurt as much. If you have,
I hear that a lot.
It's at least 5 minutes of stretching every day. Your hips are not going to be as tight. Your ankles are not going to be as sensitive. Your knees are not going to hurt. There's no sore neck. You sleep better. I mean, besides going to pee every 5 minutes, but in general, it's you feel so much better when even if you try to include at least, let's say, 30 minutes of a walk a day, that is good enough. That is so much better.
And I'm glad you brought that up. You said even 10 minutes stretching or a 30-minute walk. Like, that's what I tell my clients all the time is, we're all busy, and especially during pregnancy, not only are you busy, but you're probably not feeling great. And the most important thing that women can do is something every day. Whether it's 5 minutes of walking up and down the stairs if you have a 2-story, obviously within whatever is safe. If you're feeling dizzy, don't walk up and down the stairs. But, something just to get your heart rate elevated, get your blood flowing, even 10 squats, just sitting on a dining chair and standing up 10 times, quick to get your heart rate elevated. Just doing something every day is so much more important than, waiting until you have a full hour to dedicate to the gym.
Yeah, first of all, not all of us have an hour to go to the gym.
Yeah,
we don't feel like going to the gym, and then sometimes you feel like, I don't want to shave my legs, so I'm not going to go to the gym. Well, at home you don't have to do that. You can do it with with your legs unshaved.
Exactly.
It's perfectly fine. Yeah, and about stretching, and I always try to make put a lot of accent on it, especially for moms to be or to whoever already have kids. I've seen a lot of people not being able to perform a squat correctly, and a lot of times that's because your hips are so tight and you simply don't know it. And if you include, at least 5-10 minutes of stretch every day, not even that much. You don't have to, designate a whole hour of yoga, which would be great, but it's not realistic. That helps a lot. My hips were so tight after my first baby, but I didn't know that until I started physical therapy. They pointed out that besides, they're like, your knees are in so much pain because you never stretch your hips. And I didn't know that before until I started learning about it too and through my personal training course. So, let's move on from imbalances and everything. I was going to ask you about, so let's say I have a baby. Now, what am I going to do? What am I going to do now? When is the good time to go back to, let's say, 6 weeks? But for some people, 6 weeks maybe it's too long to wait because they're impatient. For some people, it's simply not enough. What is a good time?
Yeah, so this is highly individual. I don't like general recommendations just about in any, area of pregnancy or postpartum because everyone's so different that say it's 6 weeks comes and you're still having pelvic pain or back pain or something, then women can feel bad about themselves, I'm supposed to be able to do this now. However, some people might feel better after 2 weeks and they wait an extra month because they're nervous because they heard they weren't supposed to, start for 6 weeks. So just like prenatal fitness is all about listening to your body and its feedback, so is postpartum recovery. And that said, there's a couple general rules. I would say initial exercise should be treated more like rehab. It shouldn't be, you shouldn't jump into trying to lose weight or jump into your old routine. It should start with walking, deep breathing, so taking a full exhale and then tightening your abs, like just trying to get things back where they were or, as close to where they were as possible. Before then you start running or doing resistance training or something like that because ligaments are stretched, organs are moved, your body needs to, it needs some TLC before you start beating it up again. Like what the body just went through for the last 9 months, and depending on how difficult your labor is pretty intense. And so it needs to be treated with some tenderness and some care before you go back to your, kickboxing class.
What about, do you treat people differently with whoever went through natural labor, or if, for instance, somebody had a C-section? How different is that, for going back to working out?
Yeah, so typically, generally speaking, a natural labor will recover quickly, assuming everything went well. Sometimes things can get torn or stretched, and that can make the recovery difficult. But with a C-section, you can still start, doing what's comfortable by like walking, the deep breathing. And by deep breathing, that one is really important. It may seem, kind of like hippie or not very intense, but when you exhale, think of it as almost like a plank, that if you've done a plank before, you draw those abs in. You really want to focus on postpartum, getting those abs back where they were. Because if you just start crunching at 6 weeks, you're going to just keep pushing them out and reinforce that pooch. So it's real important to plank and deep breathe. And whether it's a C-section or a natural birth, it really just depends on how you feel. Some C-section scars, I've trained women 6 months and they still hurt, and some a month into it, they're well on their way to recovery. So it really, once again, is completely individual and also really depends on how well you took care of yourself during pregnancy. If you didn't gain too much weight and your endurance is still, strong and you're able to recover quickly, that's going to help regardless of what type of labor you had.
So the general rule is pretty similar to prenatal fitness. Just watch how you feel, make sure you feel good, like don't push through certain things, right? Like don't over-challenge yourself.
Yeah. And so, I think people, a lot of times in fitness especially, they want, some magic answer. They want some exercise that's going to give them flat abs, or they want, a magic number of repetitions or whatever. And really there isn't one. And if someone tells you there is, they're probably trying to sell you something. And so it's important that women, especially like we talked about in the beginning of this conversation, learn to tune into their bodies. And pregnancy is a great opportunity to practice that, because if you can really tune into your health and the feedback that your body's giving you, the doctor tends to be a second opinion to your own. Like you become your own health advocate when you can really learn how to listen to what your body's telling you.
So speaking of flat abs, anyway, a lot of moms always complain about, the baby belly, baby tummy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's for 99% of the women who have kids, it's the area they want to get rid of first.
Yeah.
And then thighs, of course. But tummy, is it possible? So let's say some women have bigger bellies, bigger bellies, some have smaller bellies. I was lucky enough to have smaller babies. My torso is a little bit longer, so my belly tends to be a little smaller. But even now, I notice my belly stretching again, and I have a loose skin. Not a lot, but enough to be annoying. Is it possible to get rid of the fat underneath? Of course, you can work on that, but the skin, is it ever going to go back and shrink to the pre-baby size?
Unfortunately, probably not. That is so dependent on your genetics. Some people, are prone to stretch marks and extra skin, where others, just genetically are gifted, and we can all be mad at them, and they just bounce right back. So you can do the best of your ability within the confines of your genetics. So, for someone like me who has a real short waist, it's probably going to be harder for me to bounce back because I'm going to stretch out more, whereas someone like you with a longer torso, you have more room to grow, and so you might have a little extra skin, but there's really not a whole lot you can do about it besides trying to pull those underlying muscles in. So, by doing a plank or by doing those deep breathing exercises where you train the muscles to be pulled in, it'll narrow your waist and it'll pull in the extra skin. It won't get rid of it, but it'll pull it in. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And what I was actually going to say is that a lot of fitness models and fitness experts, who had 2, 3, 4, 5 kids even, they still were able to do a, competition or show. But a lot of them always show that, like, a lot of them, they always mention, they're like, look at me when I sit down. I still have the stretchy skin. It's loose, so it's not about the way you look in the picture when it's nice and lotion and, you have tan and Photoshop. But it's like, I think it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know if you saw, I posted it on my Facebook page that Cindy Crawford released a photo, and I just thought how amazing that she's showing, she's a supermodel and she has a lot of extra belly skin. And it's because she's had kids, and that's, I think as a culture it'd be awesome if we just started kind of, celebrating women's bodies and all the amazing things they do instead of, judging and photoshopping and creating this illusion of what they're supposed to be like.
Yeah. And this photo that's been going around for the past few days about this girl who's a fitness model, and she's like 9 months pregnant, but she has baby abs, whatever. I mean, even that is so personal. It doesn't, first of all, it doesn't mean she's healthy. Maybe she is, maybe she's not. I don't know. I don't know her personally. But it's, the genetics are different, the body is different. She might have longer torso.
And her career is to be fit, I mean, people need to realize that too, that, when you see fitness models and celebrities, one, they probably had professional photographers and people touching up the photo, and two, it's their job to be, aesthetically pleasing. They devote, so much time because their career revolves around them looking good and being a sex symbol or a fitness role model or whatever it might be. It's like unless that's in your job description, like you shouldn't be comparing yourself to them.
Exactly. So what I'm trying to say is that, yes, does she look great? Absolutely. She looks amazing. She looks great. She has a great looking body and, the belly is wonderful. But I don't think anybody else should be feeling like they're not good enough. or that she's better than anybody, just because the belly is different. It's your baby inside, and that's what's important. It's not the abs that are on the outside.
Exactly.
So my next question would be, let's say I started to work out after I had a baby. Yeah. What would be a good, let's say, give me 5 exercises to include in my routine, something that I must do every time?
Sure. So typically, when I go to the gym, I see women either on the cardio machine or doing, inner and outer thighs and biceps and triceps. Women, we tend to do what I call the vanity muscles, so it's like we want toned arms, and so we go and work our arms, or we want toned thighs, and so we go and work our legs. And what happens is that you might strengthen the muscles underneath the fat, but if you're not burning that layer on top, you can't spot reduce. So you can work your arms and your inner thighs, until the cows come home, and they're not going to change. If anything, they might bulk up a little bit because you're building muscle, but unless you're burning the fat over, you're not going to see that tone. And so that said, it's very important that when we work out, we focused on the muscles that we get the most bang for the buck, So I typically will do a circuit of the biggest muscles. So that means squats. So I'm working half my body in one workout, in one exercise, or lunges are a great one. Reverse lunges are easier on the knees. Push-up, so whether it's on your knees or on your toes, because then you're working your core because you're having to plank. You're working your arms and your chest. Or a back row where you're pulling with your arms and you're working your back. Or something for the abs, doing a crunch on the stability ball or a plank, something like that. So basically what I do when I work out is I cycle through the biggest muscle groups, and I try to do as much kind of body weight training as I can, because then I'm going to have to use my stabilizer small muscles. I'm going to use my core for balance. So even though I'm working, say, my chest or my thighs or my back, all the other little ones are having to kick in to support me in that movement. So I'm not just sitting on a machine and isolating one muscle, or doing a bicep curl and working one small muscle. I'm focusing on one muscle, but I'm working almost my whole body at the same time. Does that make sense?
It does, and I really like that approach because, first of all, it goes by a lot faster. It's not boring. Spending 60 minutes on an elliptical machine, to me, is equal to killing myself.
Yeah, it's like a mouse on a wheel. I don't get it.
Yeah, so a 30-minute circuit, high-intensity circuit, or whatever is high intensity for you personally, is so much easier and faster, and I think it's so much more effective as well.
Yeah, I agree. So what that might look like, just to kind of recap real quick, is I might start at the bottom, of my body and work my way to the top. So I'd start with squats, and then I would do maybe some ball crunches, some push-ups, and a back row, and then maybe go back to the bottom and do reverse lunges, and then a different ab exercise, and then maybe a cable press, and then a lat pull down or something. So I rarely do the same exercise twice. I just work the same muscle in a different way. So that way you get different ranges of motion, you get different, muscles that are engaged. And so I really like a well-rounded approach to exercise, so you don't just use the same muscles in the same way and then get, imbalances and overuse injuries. And it's really important to add variety, even if you're working the same muscles.
Mm-hmm. So that being said, do you recommend any separate cardio to do, running or?
Yeah, so some people will, have a whole cardio workout or a whole day of abs or really, kind of focus on one thing. And if that works for them, if they enjoy that, I don't want to discourage anyone. I think doing something is always better than doing nothing. But however, it's not my favorite style. So typically I use cardio as a warm-up and a cool-down. It's rarely it's separate workout for me. Unless it's something I enjoy, unless it's, going for a jog with the pups or on a bike ride with friends or whatever. If it's an enjoyable experience, I like cardio. If it's just, cranking 45 minutes on an elliptical and bearing it because you hate it, then there's much better ways to get a workout. So I typically do 5 to 10 minutes on a piece of cardio, whether it be the stair climber or the treadmill. Then I'll do, anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes of a workout like I just described, the cycling through the large muscle groups. And then if I have time, whatever energy I have left over, I'll hop on a cardio machine. So it'll be, the rower or the stair climber or something to just kind of finish me off and make me feel like, I worked hard. 'Cause cardio is like if you start out with resistance training, you should be pretty fatigued. And cardio is a great way to just kind of finish you off. But to do a whole workout, there's much more effective ways to burn calories, I think.
Yeah, I think a smart build circuit, 30-minute circuit training can be even more than cardio a lot of times. So my last question is basically, if, let's say I just had a baby and I want to, my doctor gave me the green light, I can go ahead and start working out, going back into fitness. Mm-hmm. So what are the 3 first steps for me to take if I wanted to start losing baby weight, go back to my pre-pregnancy body?
Okay. So like I mentioned earlier, you want to start at a pace where it's more about rehabbing your body and not jumping back into your old workout. Like, it's really important that new moms treat their body with love and respect and kind of honor the, experience that it just went through. It's not, it's a frustrating process when you know what you're capable of, but you can't do it, and so I think going into it knowing that you gotta, crawl before you walk before you run, is important. So that said, start with, the stretching, maybe some yoga, deep breathing, walking until you feel better. And then also, if weight loss is your concern, diet is going to be way more effective than any workout. So you can start with the rehab exercises to get yourself strong, but then really focus on the weight loss part of it by eating more vegetables, drinking more water, by really nourishing your body to get back to a strong point through nutrition is huge for weight loss, and then also recovery and even breastfeeding if that's something that they're doing. So I already mentioned do something every day, no matter how small, no matter how exhausted, even if it's just standing up and sitting down 10 times, that's enough to kind of get your body into the habit of daily exercise. So don't discount anything, no matter how small it is. It's still important. And then lastly, I would say not to obsess about the weight, because weight can tend, especially postpartum, it can tend to come off in chunks. It's not a linear process. So women can get discouraged because they're eating better, and they're exercising and the baby's born, but they're still hanging on to this weight, and they can get wrapped up in this number on the scale. And it's real important. If you're doing all the right things, you're drinking water, you're eating your veggies, you're doing something every day, the number will reflect that. It just might not reflect it, on the timeline that you're hoping for. So I see women get discouraged because they don't see the, number reflecting their work, and so they give up, or they say, what's the point? Or, it's a psychological setback. Whereas if they just let their body, kind of tell them how they feel, they're feeling good, if they're feeling better, then it's working, and forget the scale. Don't let the scale have that kind of power,
That's true. And I also wanted to add that a lot of women, like you said, they put in so much work, but the weight doesn't come off. And
yeah.
a lot of times it's because the hormones are so different, you know, they're
yes.
working different. And for some women, breastfeeding helps to lose weight. For some women, the weight is just not going to come off while you're breastfeeding, and nobody is going to predict that. There's no way you can know about it ahead of time, and a lot of times there's nothing you can do about it. So just enjoy, you know, the baby, love your body, and, you know, take care of it. And I think it's all going to come back eventually. It's all, you know, you're really
and it will pay off. It will, like, you know, like you said, if you're loving your body and you're taking care of it, like, if you're one of those people who hold on to fat when you have hormones, you know, the breastfeeding hormones, like, there's really no way around that. Like I said before, you can do the best you can do within your genetics, and you can't change your genetics, and so you just have to work with them and embrace what you've, you know, been given in life, and do the best you can.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of times we are so eager to go back to exercise that we start so strong, you know, we go really strong for 4 or 5, 6 weeks, but then nothing happens.
And then fizzle out.
Because we're like, nothing's working, and we kill ourselves, and we're too tired, and then the baby never sleeps, and you're like, oh, whatever, you know, and I think that's about 50%.
Yeah, a lot of people use that same mindset for pregnancy, and, you know, it's like, well, I'm working out and I'm not seeing results, or I'm why work out because I'm going to gain weight anyway. And it's so important for women to remember that it's not just about the immediate weight loss or weight gain. It's about the long-term health effects. It's about being around for your kids when they're older. It's about having the stamina and energy to keep up with them, you know, and it's about the mental benefits, you know, feeling emotionally healthier and feeling mentally stronger. There's so much more than just, you know, weight loss or gain when it comes to exercise, that it's important that women pay attention to those benefits as well. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So what I was going to say, thank you so much for making time. Thank you so much for your wonderful advice, for your great strategy. Sure. And I think they're really easy to follow. And if you guys want to know more, then please look at the link that you got in your email this morning for totalmommyfitness.com. And Tatum also has a fitness magazine, which is free, and you can subscribe to it through iTunes. You know, I did that. And again, this is Tatum Rebelle for the Secrets of Healthful Motherhood Summit. My name is Vera, Stepina, and I hope everybody enjoyed the interview. Hope to see you guys again. Thank you so much. Thank you.